and welcome to this very important session where we are going to talk about the relevance of well-being, especially in the events industry. Thank you for joining us today, and I would like to start with Mr. Bala. Sir, can you throw some light about this important issue? How do you relate to it, and what do you feel is the significance of physical as well as mental well-being for our sector?
Thank you, Raghu. Thanks for the opportunity and very good topic. But let me be very candid and open and tell you that this we're going to speak our mind and heart out because we don't have anything structured in our mind. Of course, these are all based out of some learning experiences through our life in terms of both in terms of personal and professional, how we have overcome certain incident or crisis, and we overcome some of those situations where we were tough for us actually. So for me, basically, as a person, I'm taking life as it comes. Many people have told me like, Bala, I like because you keep always smiling, and that's very important. That's a compliment for me, and I take it with very gratitude, and I'm happy that I do that. So that's my personal trait, and that's how I am right from my childhood days to the teens to my professional level also. Yes, physical and mental health is very, very, well-being is very, very important in anyone's life in terms of achievement or achieving the goal or in terms of whatever you do in your lifestyle. For me, as physical has been very, very important because coming from the background of being a sportsman, and I've been from Bombay. I represented my college. In athletics, I represented my college and the university for playing for soccer, and also the professional to different corporates and clubs as well. So playing soccer has been very, very passionate for me. So as they say that do what you are passionate about, do what interests you, and that can make your life easier and comfortable, and you will be able to achieve whatever you want to do. That's the same thing I've been telling my kids, my colleagues, my friends, that today there are many opportunities available, what was not there something like 30, 40 years ago. But today you choose what you want to do, choose what you enjoy doing, choose what interests you. And I'm sure you will be able to carve out a superb career out of it. So for me, physical is very important. Like whenever, I'm not able to do it after I shift over to Bangalore, but since the time I was in Bombay, every weekend I used to be on the ground playing soccer. That used to be give me immense energy, like a stress buster. You're onto the ground, you're playing something, you're coaching your youngsters. That gives me a lot of things. But in terms of mental well-being is properly, I've learned over the years from many of my mentors, many of my colleagues, many of my bosses, in terms of how do we come out of a situation. Like everybody comes out with a lot of trouble or crisis in workplace and personal life. So why don't you look at all those things in bits and find solutions and work on those steps step by step. So even in terms of when you professional difficulty that you face, why don't you discuss among your friends, discuss among your colleagues? I'm sure there is nothing that you need to keep it to your heart and brood around it. Basically, there are many things that you need to share with friends, whether even if it's a personal difficulty or a professional difficulty. It's always good to share. Take insights from people. Even discuss with your families, discuss with your close friends. There's nothing you need to feel shy or you go out of it. And I'm sure there could be a lot of solution which is coming from the other side. And for me, over the period of time, what is that I've learned in terms of professional life coming out of the difficulty is basically anything that you do, you need to have a good planning in place. There are two things which we have always felt very important, which some of my seniors, some of my colleagues have taught me is basically there are two things. One is very, very important is basically people is very important, that you need to do work, and then a process for that particular activity is very, very important. If you have these two pillars for any activity that done, your journey to achieving that goal becomes very, very easy. So both in terms of I balance both my my mental well-being in terms of physical well-being. I try and balance whenever I have the time. But in terms of balancing my well-being is one thing is like I discuss with colleagues. I discuss my whatever the challenge that we have. We always have to think about what is that new thing that you want to do about. So that keeps me going. That gives you the energy. That gives you the boost in terms of doing something very different in a career. in your professional life. So these are two things which is very, very important for me. Definitely, I have our own way of doing it. As I mentioned that, we do a lot of planning. Anything that you have, once you have a plan in place, try them out, discuss them out, and then you have a lot of things which you have people to work on those things. Once you have those things in place, I think the journey would be very easy, and we will be able to overcome all the difficulties, and we will be able to achieve what we are supposed to be.
So you made some very valid points. And yes, friends and colleagues, your peers, they do play a very important role in dealing with your daily stressful life situations, as well as indulging in some sport activities like you do. I'm sure that it also gives you more energy when you come back to work. Then it adds up to your productivity as well. Thank you for those inputs. Well, it's also a fact that event is one of the most stressful jobs in the world today, one of the 5 most stressful jobs. And we have to deal with a lot on the floor. I'd like to go to Mr. Bhupinder Singh, and I'd like to understand his take about how to ensure mental well-being in this era where a lot of stress is there, anxiety is there in the event professionals as to how their event would turn up at the last hour. Mr. Singh, over to you.
Well, thanks, Raghav. Again, as Bala said, a very good initiative. You are a champion of picking the pulse of the industry and launching such topics. And that's why Bala and I were, delighted, very happy to be part of it and share our thoughts. See, there is no fixed formula to take care of that anxiety, right? I mean, none of us has a perfect recipe. I think the first step is to acknowledge that mental health in the workplace is a real issue. Now, COVID must have intensified it. During COVID, when the water was still, when there was no action, it came out very clearly. It doesn't mean it was not existing before, right? So I think for us, a big takeaway is that it's a very, very valid issue, which was existing even before. And now we have to take a very strong note of it and look at corrective actions. So, and it's also not easy times. As you know, various industries have gone through a lot of disruption. They had to take some tough calls, which they believed were the right calls for the business to sustain, stay afloat. And this has also caused, a lot of disruption to the mental health, right? And people have gone through a lot of uncertainty, and the demand for this mental health is increasing. Now, for Bala or for me, and likewise for you, it increases the challenge. So I think, as I said, first is to acknowledge that it is a challenge and it's not going to go away with COVID. For me individually, there could be a various ways which I follow to stay focused and to stay out of it. And it goes with reading books. I read a lot. I personally practice yoga. I go for long walks. Sometimes I play tennis, cricket. Big fan of cricket. I'm an early riser, so in the morning I allocate some time for myself to either read or to do some meditation, or there is a buffet of interesting things which can be taken before the daily clutter takes over. Right now, I'm privileged to follow that routine. There are a lot of people who have challenges to follow that routine because of various things, lifestyle, their time cycle, etc., etc. And all of us also go through that inconsistency when we are traveling. So, when you enter office, at least office culture is one thing which becomes a prime responsibility for CEOs or for leaders to ensure that when a person is entering the office, at least those 8-10 hours could create a conducive atmosphere where that person feels comfortable to go and talk to somebody, because communication is the key. And it's helpful when people look around and they feel comfortable to confide in somebody, right? So I think, I'm not saying we have a perfect culture, I'm not claiming that, but at least we are beginning to realize and acknowledge that an open culture is extremely important to encourage this kind of behavior where people are different, Raghav. Everyone is different. For you, something may not be complicated at all, but for the other person, it could be a point of contemplation. and you call it reasonable, unreasonable, rational, irrational, it doesn't matter. Human beings are designed very differently, right? And everyone is different. We all are very unique beings. So for me, first and foremost is communication. And I can give you various examples. When I am under stress, when something happens to me and suddenly your thought process is choked, you can't think clearly. I always call some of my team members, and I'm very open with the people who work closely with me. I'm very open, and I discuss and share my issues with them. And trust me, after having a good heart-to-heart conversation, the size of the problem subsides. It becomes manageable. I've seen this so many times, and I also have this habit that if I see somebody is in stress, if you see a long face, I go and talk to his boss and take the permission if I can speak to this person directly, or if he's aware of what's going on. And sometimes people don't open because they don't feel comfortable, which is fine. But sometimes you speak to them and you realize that the problems they are having are not great problems. And those problems are not just about a designation change or an increment or a bonus. They have other issues. Issues could be related to health, somebody's health in the family, some relationship advice, sometimes financial issues. There could be various issues. These issues affect people very, very significantly. And talking to many of them, which in the past few days I had the opportunity to do so, it has dual impact. On one hand, wherever you could help, the other person leaves your room feeling much better. There is a smile on his face. Whether it's immediately visible or not, I don't know, but you can feel that you have contributed. So that person appreciates, that discussion. And on the other hand, you also feel better as a human being that you had some ability to make a little difference in the other person's life. So for me, I think it's a very important discovery, especially in the last days, because when the lockdown happened after COVID, we conducted a survey in our office, a mental well-being survey, that how are people feeling. It was an anonymous survey, but the feedback which we received was quite concerning. That people who were seen to be very, very mentally strong in the organization, they were having some funny thoughts. So we followed it up with two key things. One, we conducted a workshop with a webinar with a doctor who talked about COVID, its complications, precautions, and there is nothing of grave concern if certain precautions are taken. So that calmed down a lot of people. Secondly, we also organized a webinar with a stress counselor, right? And after the webinar, it had a great impact. And of course, we also allowed people to contact that stress counselor directly for a one-to-one counseling. And many of them did. And they came back and they thanked the HR for that. So apart from that, there were a series of initiatives which took. And I can tell you, it won't stop after, hopefully, whenever we are out of this crisis fully. Because this topic has underlined itself as a real topic which exists. Whether we need a COVID to see it or not, it exists. And I think organizations will have to be very, very cautious. And I can tell you our HR is already working on a plan. They are in the middle of working on a plan so that even going forward, we have addressed this, if not fully, at least partially.
You made some very significant points, and as an industry leader, as a corporate, you're doing so much for the employees, and that's very enlightening to know. Can you throw some light? I'll go back to Mr. Bala in a while. Can you throw some light on this survey which you did, and if the counselor made some confessions to you about what are the major issues that your employees are facing and how they can be addressed?
You're asking me or Bala?
Yes, I'm asking you.
I think there were a lot of questions which were asked there, and many of them mentioned that they are feeling depressed. They couldn't quantify or they couldn't really explain why. Many of them mentioned that they have a relationship crisis because they've never been stuck for such a long time with whoever they were living with. And many of them had even more extreme thoughts. Extreme thoughts. And that was really concerning. And I remember getting a late night call from HR and saying we need to address it because the outcome is in front of us and we must do immediately something. So we figured out somebody who was experienced to handle such issues. And we knew that, many of these people we know in a day-to-day life, and we don't know, which one of them was saying this. Interestingly, after the survey got over, a lot of people came forward and spoke to HR. And they were quite open. And that was a good sign that they could confide in HR. And then we organized some of the calls, and we had one-to-one interactions planned. That really helped. I mean, it helped better than we had expected. So, and I'm not under any false imagination that this issue will just go away. These things, because of various factors, as I said, people have different kind of challenges. I mean, our lives are always changing. Sometimes there is a health issue. Sometimes there is a relationship crisis, right? Your families are affected in a way. You have sometimes the financial issues. So these 3 or 4 key areas, if they get affected in your life, you bring it to office. Now, you may not talk to anybody, but it will start reflecting on your work, right? So either we can pretend that this problem doesn't exist or this problem belongs to someone else, it's not my lookout, or we can find or take some baby steps so that at least when he's entering the circle of office, he feels at home, he feels better, he feels that, okay, I may not have anybody at home to talk to, but I have, good people around who I can approach and speak my heart out. And this is a culture building exercise, as I said. So it's not just HR's role. It doesn't happen in a single day. But I think if you have genuine empathy, and it starts from the top, right? If you have that empathy where you are willing to listen to people, and as I said, communication has scored big in this. Communication plays an extremely important role. Now we have, we have the luxury of having a small office, which is, a fun zone, right? People can go and play games there. They can read books. We have a healthy club, which we have recently found after COVID, where fresh fruits are served in the morning and evening. So these are lifestyle issues, which lifestyle support initiatives. But if somebody is not talking, he's not gonna even, look at them as his entitlement. He's not gonna avail those benefits. And that's where talking helps, having an open eye. So as I said, last week I was talking to one of the team leaders and I said, what's going on with one of your team colleagues? Because I see he's a very enthusiastic person and he's having a long face. And he says, something is on and why don't you talk to him, Bhupinder? I said, can I? And, then we created a storyline that how do I approach him? And it was a beautiful conversation. I ended up, I didn't realize that I've spent 45 minutes because I enjoyed it. I didn't even know I have the ability to talk to somebody for 45 minutes without realizing time passes by. And we did this with a couple of people, right? And at the end of the bargain, as I said before, I ended up feeling much better also. So I believe, as Bala has mentioned before, readings of the survey is one thing. But the survey should not be only confined to certain things like COVID. It should be an ongoing exercise wherein HR should have the ability to tap into what's going on, right? And where we can come and play a role. There is a line, we cannot cross the line as an organization, right? But once you are inside the office atmosphere, what sort of exercises we can undertake to ensure people's mental well-being?
I agree with Bhupinder. Let me add in here, Raghav, because it's quite interesting, because we also do this employment satisfaction survey. It's called as ESAT as part of a business excellence journey, where we ask all sort of questions to the employees and put it up in the box. And then it goes to the HR and it does some kind of, in terms of slicing and dicing of the entire finding that we have. And we pick up the important ones where people are saying something where they need help, something where gaps in terms of the understanding. And we pick up those and we, as a team of people, the senior team of people, we sit with those employees and we see how we address this issue. As Bhupinder rightly mentioned, communication, or I would say that I would use the word discussion, discuss. If you have any problem, that's what we tell. I also tell everybody, please, if you have any problem, please discuss. I'm also trying to connect this, people who are some of those in the recent past during the COVID, some of those celebrities who have committed suicide. They would have gone into depressions. I only wish if they were a good friend, if you would have discussed the problem an hour before or a day before, I'm sure they would not have taken this drastic step. So anytime before that thing, and there is a point which comes in, probably he gets into this action. But only thing is, we're able to discuss. Everybody has lots of friends in different social media, but we should also have a lot of friends with whom you can discuss things. We can discuss things which is openly without any boundaries. You should not have anything like that. Let me talk only this. Let me talk. Open out, pour out your, vent out all your feelings. I'm sure when you discuss things, it could be both ways. One, as a habit, we should have that if you're under a problem, we should discuss. But as a human being also, we should see that, like how Bhupender mentioned, when you see somebody with a long face in the organization or within your friendship also, if you are able to go and speak to him, extract what is he undergoing. And if he is able to, open up and say things, and the discussion and the result which comes out of it, you feel so enlightened, you feel so happy that you have contributed to somebody's help, and that fellow also feels very lightened in terms of, yes, मैंने अच्छा किया जिससे बात करके, after speaking to him, I felt very nice. So connect is very important. The discussion is very important. Communication is very, very important. So this is, I think, I would say this is one of the very, very important point. Be it physical well-being or mental well-being, you need to connect. You need to discuss. You need to communicate. Then only I'm sure there'll be very good things happening post which.
Absolutely. And these are very good points which you both have mentioned. And in fact, in today's age where people rely on social media, they feel that they are connected, but it is all the more relevant that you connect one-to-one with your peer or with somebody whom you can connect with and talk out your issues, and you can also seek counseling with your leaders like you in their companies. With this, I'd like to understand from you, Mr. Bala, like you must have also encountered some situation in your life journey where you face some anxiety or some you were not feeling upbeat. How did you personally came out of that situation? And if you can throw some light on your personal experience with us, it will be great.
Like I mentioned, as a person, I am pretty open, in terms of I don't keep anything to my heart and sulk into that particular thing. So I always discussed with a lot of friends. Incidentally, I will give an incident of my own exhibitions, because when I took over IMTEX in 2007, when I joined here in 2009, IMTEX is one large exhibition. So it's an exhibition where you have 300 to 400 trucks coming every day. You have around 2,500 machines coming and displaying in live situations. So it's an enormous operation which one has to handle. But the whole thing is handled by a small operation team, who are basically, they know what their jobs are, what are they do. So we have incidentally the team of people who knows the roles and responsibility. What is the process involved? 7 days of setup, machines keeps coming day in, day out. You have the last one day, which is no movement day. There are a lot of things which has happened. But all these things, when it happens in a planned manner, the way it was happening from 2007, if you see from the current situation, when it used to happen once in 3 years, today IMTEX happens every year. Every small activity that we do at IMTEX has got a process in place, has got a people in place. We have a process owner, we have a co-process owner. There is a fallback options in terms of whenever the process owner is unable to catch on to that particular activity, there's a co-process owner who get into this situation and take up that activity. So we have a lot of activities. So everything today, many people have said that, IMTEX being such a large exhibition where the setup goes for 7 to 8 days and the exhibition goes for 7 days, 2,500 machines running live, 13 megawatts of power used for running machines, 1 lakh people coming for the exhibitions. At any given point of time, there are at least 25,000 people inside the premises. There are food available for almost close to around 30,000 people anytime point of the day. The whole thing works to clock and it is on an autopilot mode. Because I have people who are earmarked for every single activity who knows what his roles and responsibility are. He knows what is the process they need to follow. If anything trips in a particular machine and something like that, what he has to trigger. You have a small and a hall manager in the hall, it goes to the person who's handling the power outside in the transformer. The whole thing it gets alarmed. It gets trickled. It goes step by steps, and the issue is managed. So these are the kind of situations which has got transformed from a small thing to a very matured manner. So we have this such place, we have such people in place, we have such process in place. So this is one thing which we have learned over a period of time, which has helped us in overcoming a lot of stress. Yes, I would say that yes, we had stress, but we also have a pool of people. When such things happens, you need to be you can't be taking decisions out of excitement. There are my people, in my operation, there are people who are even in terms of difficult times, they keep very composed, they are absolutely cool, but the thing very thoughtful in terms of nature, what are the next action need to be taken. So we have such people in place, such process in place, which has made us to a situation wherein today IMTEX, which being such a large magnitude of event, works seamlessly, works as good as like in autopilot mode.
Very good points that you've made. Like planning is very important, and having a clarity in your vision and drawing a roadmap helps you, deal with anxiety and stress. And as an industry corporate leader, you consider people as your assets. Your team is your asset, and you also make sure that they get the right kind of work environment, the right kind of experience, the right kind of services, so that they can be in the right frame of mind all the time. Well, thank you.
Can you believe in a show like IMTEX as large as exhibitions, I personally used to stay back till late at night to see that things are in place. But today we are in a situation, even during setup, the halls are closed at 9 o'clock. People leave after 9 o'clock during the setup. They don't stay. Only, a situation when arises a day before, that's when we work overnight. But otherwise, in terms of people, because gone are the days when you used to stay awake, a lot of things used to happen, whether ye ho gaya, oh gaya. Today, halls are locked at 9 o'clock, they're asked to go. So that's kind of maturity we've got. It's only because of, I would say, process and people. These are the two important ingredients for the success. What I have achieved, what I have learned. It's not that we have done something, but we have learned across. And also as one good thing, what we give as a responsibility in the KRA for every employee in the organization is you need to bring in 1 or 2 good practices from the industry into your responsibility. So in this KRA, when we do the annual appraisals, there are 2 best practices which you have to bring into the system and execute them seamlessly and bring in and measure it. Actually, everything that we do is measured, because unless you measure, you can't improve. Whatever activity we do in our organization, be it seminar, be it training, be it exhibitions, be it conferences, everything is measured with a scale of 1 to 10. And then we go back to and see why we are at 5, why we are 4, why we are at 8. From the 8, we are not satisfied, we don't stay there. Well, how do we go up, scale up? That's what we do. And we do a very good exercise for every single activity, something called as PDCA, which is plan, do, check, and action. So after every event for IMTEX, the 3rd day of the dismantling is the day when we do a PDC exercise where every stakeholder of exhibitions sit and discuss what has been the observations, what has been the gaps, what is the suggestion in terms of improvement. And this goes in terms of in the process flow plan. If certain things has to be changed as a process flow into the ISO, we go and change the process. These needs to be changed. Otherwise, any other option that we need in terms of changing and improving this gap areas, we do that. So that is a very regimented way of finding things, finding measurement in terms of the achievement, enlightenment of the the stakeholders, and then we build in that kind of systems. That's what we do.
Well, 2 things are clear that, many people have this misconception, but to me, it is very much clear that the person who is there at the top has much more things to settle. He has much more anxiety than the people whom he is managing. So this is one misconception in the industry, that the bosses do not face any anxiety. And the other thing is that you ensure that all your stakeholders are doing their job in a structured manner. That is called involving everybody with a holistic approach. Great. I'd like to go to Mr. Bhupinder Singh, who is considered as one of the finest CEOs in our industry today globally. And as a very dynamic CEO, Mr. Singh, you must have also encountered a lot of stress, anxiety, or maybe some situations where you felt dejected also because you are into so much of events throughout the year. Can you throw some personal experience to educate us how you encountered those situations?
I call Bala. No, but I also agree with Bala because see, no matter what magnitude or scale you are talking or what frequency of events you are talking, you need people around you. You can go and talk to. You can discuss issues, and that's where alignment plays a very important role, Raghav. And your team and you as one. And if that happens, if you have a good council where you can take all your issues and discuss with them, and as I said, mention every day there is an issue. You can classify which of these issues you have to fix yourselves and which are the issues you want another perspective. And sometimes when you talk to people, they say, Bhupender, you're not thinking straight. This is a stupid idea. Please change it. Let's take that approach. So alignment means that you also allow them to be extremely open with you. And you also exercise that freedom to be open with them. You're not thinking, oh, can I say like this? What will he feel? Or can I be open? That. So if you have that kind of thought process, you have this additional stress. But if you are extremely open to be yourself in the team, to talk the way you like to talk, to express the way you like to express, and your team is also allowed that freedom to be themselves, to tell on your face that this is a stupid idea. I don't agree with this, or whichever form of expression they like to follow. Mostly milder. This helps because then, no matter what the crisis is, you have to take a decision that you have a sizable number of square meters, and the industry is saying do the show, and you still decide not to do the show. And this is not a one-man decision. This is a decision of the council, of the core team which you work with. And I am every single day grateful for the dependable team I have, for a successful and very, very ethical team I have. And I think that makes a lot of things easy. But that also makes your position vulnerable. See, if you are also opening up, if you hand over everything, all your trust in your team's hand, that makes you vulnerable. So it's not also easy, because that's why a lot of people don't let go, right? But I have chosen to be extremely open and transparent. I'm not saying there is no area of improvement. Of course there is. But we have discovered this, that during COVID, we have come even closer. We have discussed, we have come through a lot of very, very sensitive topics. We have found solutions to those problems successfully, even when we were not in office, long calls, long Teams calls, and we have always found a solution and executed it. Like Bala was explaining, for many things you don't have a process in place. They're very spontaneous topics. But I think if you have a good team, that takes care of most of the issues. And it's not that you don't end up making a wrong decision. Many times you decide that, okay, this was, my idea was still better than his. And this person also realizes, but once you take a decision, it is your decision. You don't say, see, I was telling you. Then you say, oh, we were wrong. You don't say, I was right and you were wrong. You say, we were wrong. So, and that drives out of, that is also driven out of the value that you always say people first. You cannot say customer first, because that makes at least your employee second, at least second, right? So one of our value is people first. And, I'm happy we are able to exercise it. There is still a long way to go. But so far that has been the basis for me to handle stress. And I hope they reflect the same feelings also.
Absolutely.
We all, Raghav, we all come here, of course, of my age, I would say that we all come to the exhibition industry by accident. We had no other choice. But today, people are choosing to come into the industry. But there is one thing which if people can practice, whatever assignment or whatever job you have taken, if you start loving the job, start loving the job. Let us not feel that this has been something which is enforced upon us, which is drilled down to us for you to do it. We have come to this any position, take anybody for that matter. We have taken this position with some kind of accountable, some kind of responsibility that I'm going to do that. Once a person tries to, start thinking that I'm going to love this job, I'm going to be passionate about the job, And I then there is no stopping for that level. If a person is going to start loving the job that is going to do it and be passionate about what he's going to do it, and then the sky is the limit for him actually. Right? He can go anywhere. He can go anywhere. I think it will take him to places actually. These are two things which I always feel, don't think, other things will follow automatically. But as long as you have accountable, as long as you put your thoughts, mind into it, do things which is very, lovingly and passionately, I think everything else will follow.
Absolutely. I think the passion is the way to success in this industry, especially. I'd like to ask you, Mr. Bala, three things that you feel are very critical in ensuring productivity and well-being in our industry. I've combined productivity with well-being because both go hand in hand. So, three things that you feel are important that an individual or a professional in our industry should take care of to ensure their well-being.
In terms of productivity, I would say that definitely planning again for me plays top of the mind, be on the top of the mind. And in terms, second thing I would say that's learning. Please keep learning continuously. Any position that we're, I'm sure, in my position, I still keep learning. I'm sure Bhupinder would also agree that there is nothing that, we are all, I was just talking to somebody in the morning today, then post-pandemic, we can say that I'm 25 in the exhibition industry, I'm 30 years in the exhibition industry, I'm a veteran. We have all come to the same page in terms of we are all learning. We are all students. So keep learning continuously. Learn new things, learn new skills that you can, which can upskill your career. Something new, discover something which you have stopped doing something before. So learning is very, very important. And for me, I still do that. For me, it gives me that extra energy in terms of when I learn something new. As I mentioned, we learn a lot of best practices from the industry. It could be any industry. It could be anything. It could be a professional life. It could be a personal life. And the other thing, what is also very, very important is please take feedback. We should not be shying away from the fact that we should be taking feedback. That's the reason it's very, very important in terms of taking feedback from your customers, your stakeholders. Very, very important to know where you are. So learning is very, very important. Connecting is very, very important. Planning is very, very important. And feedback is definitely very important. Because unless you take the feedback, you do not know where you stand. When you take a feedback, somebody should be, when you take a feedback, it's not like that's what we're doing. We're taking feedback from our own employees. We are taking feedback from our own stakeholders. How did we do any event that we do? So these are some of the important things for me. If taken care and we are acted upon them and appropriately, I'm sure that will enhance your productivity to different level.
Great points. In fact, I believe that during this phase where the industry has got so much of disruption, I think people who planned who were open to learn and evolve, they were the ones who could successfully maneuver these challenges. I'd like to go to Mr. Bhupinder Singh and understand from him that what piece of advice would you like to give to those professionals who have faced depression during these times of COVID? Three things that he feels he would suggest to such entrepreneurs or maybe professionals who have faced such crisis during this disruption.
I feel that this crisis was tough on many, at least the ones who are not looking at Sensex and who don't use BSc and NSC to justify everything, right? This was a big crisis for a lot of people. People lost jobs. Our industry was and is affected. We don't know when we'll come out of it. It looks like hopefully by the end of the year. But it has been a very, very tough time. So one has to acknowledge that. And once we acknowledge that, we say, okay, what can we do about it? Is it something within our control? No. So we start focusing on things which are under our control. So at least this has given us the opportunity to look inside, to do introspection. Organizations should look inside. So if the advice is for anyone that why to waste this crisis? It has allowed you time. So look at, I would say, if my friend is talking to me, I would say, take this opportunity and spend some time identifying who you are, what are your values, right? What is the purpose of your life? Now, if your value is empowerment, to empower people, and you are issuing termination letters as part of your job, it's time to think those questions, and it's time to make a move to somewhere which is aligned with your value. You know? So I think it's a beautiful opportunity. It is a beautiful opportunity for people to look at those larger questions, because superficial things will only take you this far, unless until you go deep, and look for a coach. Look for a coach who can talk to you, who can be a sounding board, right? Sometimes they come in the shape of friends. Sometimes friends don't have that depth, right? So you have to go and look for someone who can, tell to your face that, okay, these are the issues you have to address, and this is how you can do it, and I can help you do that. So we have an internal coach system. So with my limited knowledge, I am the coach for some of my German colleagues. Some of our German colleagues are coaches to some of our Indian colleagues. So coaching is just about what I have, and you may find it useful. It's nothing superior or inferior position. I had a crisis and somebody helped me, and now I have gained that experience and I can help you, right? So that's coaching. So I would say use this time, and we have internally driven a lot of programs, right? We went through the exercise of finding our why and values, right? We did our internal process optimization. We started a program called Connect with CEO, wherein I could know, what people are reading, what they like to play, what they like to read, and who they are. And it was such a good discussion, and it was a great outcome. So 3 things, 4 things, I don't know, but I would say try and identify who you are, and get to the best source to figure that out. Read books. I'm a student of theology. I can tell you, read your own scriptures. They have all the answers. They have the answers. If you spend some time there, you will find the answers. Go and follow somebody, not necessarily with the most likes on YouTube. So don't follow just the number of people. Majority doesn't represent sometimes the right logic. But figure out somebody who can help you understand who you are better, and who can handhold you, to take you into the right direction. Books is a great investment. So we have taken subscription for people, that they can buy books and they can claim the money. There is no upper lid. As long as you produce an invoice for a book and you have read the book, claim the money, no problems, right? So it's unfortunate that people don't exercise it. Not many people exercise it, right? But I think that has a lot of answers to your question.
Well, great, and I think we've had a wonderful interaction and enlightening one for personally for me as well. We'll just quickly go through a final rapid fire question answer round with both of you, and it will be the common question for both of you. So I'll take it up one by one, and then I'll move to the next question. So I have 5 or 6 quick questions for you. I'd like to start with Mr. Bala. And sir, can you tell us the hours of sleep that you take every day?
I think I take 6.5 hours. I drop dead at 10:30, 11, and by 5:45 I'm on. Actually, that's by a biologic clock. I do that. That's been my habit for quite some time. Sometimes it get extended over the weekend, maybe around 6:15, but otherwise 5:45 is the clock which rings. That's the number of hours I sleep. But once on the bed, I doze off immediately, and that's probably a God gift for me.
And what about Mr. Singh?
I can ditto what Bala said. Almost same.
Yeah.
I sleep before 11. I'm up by mostly 5:45, sometimes early, sometimes 15-minute buffer I keep.
Okay, and what is the diet that you prescribe and that you personally you follow, that kind of you make sure that this is the diet I will take?
Let me grab a pen, Bala.
Raghav, I'm a foodie, so I will not say that I eat only this. I eat anything and everything. I don't have any restrictions. I am a great foodie. As I was just telling Ruben that also, like, that is one of the biggest stress buster for me is actually getting into the kitchen and cooking. There is one day in a week which I cook for my family. There are certain dishes which my kids love when they have it from me. So for me, when I get into the kitchen, that's one of the biggest stress buster for me. I'm a foodie. It's not that I hog, but I like to try different varieties. You talk about any hotel in Bangalore or Mumbai, I would have gone there, I would have tasted it. So I don't have any set menu in terms of this is what I like. You know, I
Okay.
eat.
Absolutely a complete foodie also, and I eat everything. Big fan of seafood. You know, I love cooking also. Cooking is like meditation.
Excellent. And what's the favorite motivation book that you would like to advocate to for others to read?
Uh, I used to read a lot of not those novels kind of things, but basically they are management books. I read a lot of books on my own subject, which is exhibitions. You know, I do that. I have a lot of like gone are the days when you used to buy books. Now this is all everything on the internet. But I have got into the habit, thanks to Bhupinder, a few books which I read now.
I would say read scriptures, and after that, there are many books. Simon Sinek is a good book. Start with Why. Zero to One is a good book. Power of Now is an incredibly powerful book. Power of Now, which I just recommended Bala. I think so. It depends on what is your kind of book. But if you ask me, top of the mind, it's difficult. But yeah, these three books are great.
And how many hours do you work every day?
I should be working at least 10 hours.
4 day, 5 day, or a 6 day week?
No, I don't have the practice, because there are situations wherein you can't really put those boundaries and restriction. At times, while we as an office, we work for 5 days a week. There are days that you need to, because we being in by virtue of being in this industry, we can't say that we can't be working on 5 days. So eventually, it ends up to almost 10 hours. Except probably I would on Sundays I would skip it, but Saturdays also working for me. So I have an habit of keeping paper at my dining table and scribbling, writing my thoughts, and bringing it to the office, giving it to the secretary and type it actually. So many of the things I do it at home in terms of my own ideas, what I need to do it, because I don't find time for that during my weekdays in the office. So my own ideas and concepts and whatever new thing that I need to work on, they're all generally at home. So that's how it works.
Wow. So you suggest people to write a diary and things to do today, kind of make a list, checklist
I
every day.
have an habit of writing diary right from maybe the last 25 years.
Mr. Bhupinder Singh, the same question. How many hours of work do you put in every day?
A clear designated line between when you stop working. Because I hope Bala will agree, there is nothing called as work-life balance. I think it's a superficial term which we all are hoping that one day will come true. It doesn't exist so far. So no matter where you are, I think especially during the weekdays now, because the exhibitor action is a little less, you are working throughout, right? You are constantly on phone, you are either WhatsApping someone, you are emailing someone. So the modes of engagement has changed, but you are constantly at work. So I don't know how to put an R to that. I never thought about this, but routine wise, pretty much what Bala said. It's not too different from that.
I think we have had a very nice session, enlightening session, and lot of good points were made by both of you. I'm sure it would help the industry professionals to remain upbeat and to learn from leaders like you. I would like to thank you for taking out time for this session. One-fifth of the event professionals today globally suffer from some kind of anxiety or depression. Today we have with us a special guest. We have Ms. Poonam Lal, who is the chair at EMA We Care initiative, and she is also into her own events industry business since last 15 years. She is the managing director at Marketing Solutions based in New Delhi. Welcome to our session, Poonam, and thank you for giving us time today. We would like to understand from you, what is your take on the well-being in our sector? We understand that you have been counseling, you have been advocating, and you have been voicing this concern for our industry with a lot of passion. We would like to request you to introduce us to your initiative.
Thank you, Raghav. Thank you for having me today. And I'm really grateful that we're getting this platform to talk about an initiative or an issue which is very relevant to this industry, given that events in itself is an extremely demanding profession, where we get so involved in it that for us, uh, there is no beginning and no end of a day when we're doing events. So the stress has a tendency to carry forward into our personal lives also. We'll come to that later. Let me just start by introducing WeCare, which I chair for the Entertainment Management Association in India. WeCare is an initiative which we started in 2016, um, primarily to work towards creating a safe workplace for women in events. I'm sure you're aware that 40% of the workforce in events is women. And we wanted to work towards creating a safe and conducive environment for them. And in the second phase, we wanted to work towards the well-being of the industry.
Sorry, it's 15% that you mentioned. 15% of workforce is women.
40%.
40%. That's a
Yes.
huge number.
That's a huge number. So, we started by doing simple things, taking care of their safety, making sure agencies adhered to taking care of their employees. Then we added workshops where we started guiding employers as well as employees about um, the way they could give better environment for their people to work in. We started educating them. We started doing workshops on harassment, whether it was sexual, whether it was work-related harassment. And then we also in 2017 launched a helpline, which was like a reach out point. A lot of times girls feel that they can't talk about issues and they want, they either just stay with it, they keep it within themselves, adding to their stress. And they kind of scared about the repercussions of discussing this. So we launched WeCare Helpline as a reach out point for them, where they could talk to a complete stranger, take advice, rant, went out, get it out of their systems. And it worked very well for us. We gradually added a lot of counseling to it, and people could use our counselors pro bono, use lawyers pro bono. So it worked out well. And then when pandemic hit, we converted it into a 24/7 emotional support, so that people who were going through the backlash of having no work at all for one whole year, they could at least talk to somebody. It was an extremely painful time for a lot of people. Some lost their jobs, some lost their businesses. And it was something we were just not prepared for. So I think the helpline, IMA immediately swung into action and brought in a helpline which was available 24/7 to people with trained trauma handling counselors who would be there to advise them, guide them, just talk to them, allow them to talk. And we were there to listen to them. And we kind of maintained complete confidentiality on this. And it was up to them whether they wanted to use counselors, they wanted to use any legal advisors. So it was like that. And I think gradually now, it's been 5 months since we've been collating data. We've realized that we've got up to 490 calls that we have serviced in these months. And strangely, I never realized, but when we were analyzing the data, we realized that close to, in 2 months, there were more men using the service than women.
That's a very noble task that you have carried out, and especially in these times where because of this disruption that the pandemic has caused, a lot of people have lost their job, a lot of shops have been shut. So what is your take? Like, how has this initiative helped such people who have been under tremendous stress or depression because of the COVID? Can you give some facts and figures here?
So Raghav, if you look at, isn't much nothing much tangibly that we can do for them, in the sense that I can't give them a job. I can't give them something they've lost, but we can give them hope. And that is what we have tried constantly give them, trying to explain to them that this is not something that they are facing as individuals. This is something we are facing as an industry, we're facing as a world. The entire world is going through this. So it's just like hand holding them through this. We've done workshops, mental well-being workshops with Podar for them, the Podar Foundation. That a lot of very good workshops. We've advised them on finding things to occupy their mind where they feel that they can contribute, and they feel useful. We kind of tell them to do meditation, because everyone feels that that really helps. It calms you. It gives you a little reassurance within yourself that things will change. There is always light at the end of a tunnel.
Absolutely. And at EMA, we also have a lot of industry veterans. Are they also open to talk to the other, members and event professionals, like some kind of counseling or some kind of emotional support?
So I think Roshan Abbas, the president of EMA, as well as the entire NEC, put their entire weight behind, the We Care helpline. And they were the ones who encouraged me to take this on and take this forward. And with all their support, and I think they understand that it has really helped. And therefore, I see that they go the extra mile to ensure that we put out, they've kind of helped us do great campaigns to talk about the helpline. They've brought in a lot of, they themselves have been part of these campaigns, and we've been able to spread word, and I think that has really helped. And all of them are available for counseling and for talking to people if they should they want it.
Absolutely. And you principally started this initiative to help out and reach out to women in the events industry. What, according to you, would be the main suggestions coming from you to the working women in our industry, how they can maintain their work-life balance and promote their mental and physical well-being?
So well, I think women say so many different roles. Um, they don't just come to work and forget about the rest of it. They're not so fortunate. So they look after work, they look after their homes. Many of them have children who they look after. They have elders at home. So it's a whole lot of pressure on them to get through a day, get through work, get through life. But I think if they kind of just figure out a way to balance it a little, and find time to find time for themselves, to do things that make them feel good, to maybe read, meditate, exercise, eat well. It's so important that I see women, putting so much focus in making sure that the family eats well. But by the time they come to themselves, they're either too tired to make the effort. So they have to understand that if they are well, the whole family is well, and if they are happy, the whole family is happy, because everything stems from them. So it's important for them to look after themselves very much. They should get away, go find some me time, do things they enjoy doing, and of course stay happy and peaceful.
Absolutely. And what is your personal mantra for remaining active and your emotion and maintaining your emotional and physical well-being? Because I'm sure, like everybody has, you must have also have some points of anxiety, and maybe when your mood was not that great. How did you manage to lift your spirits up at that time?
I do this very frequently. What you see behind me, I run away. I take these breaks very often. But no, I follow what I've just been telling you. I read a lot. I make sure I have I follow a certain routine. I get up in the morning, I make sure I do yoga no matter how tired I am. I don't feel like I'm lazy, but I get up. I have that, little things that I make sure I do for myself, and I generally get by the day. And especially after having handled the We helpline, I feel that I'm so lucky and I'm so fortunate that I I'm happy, I'm well, I'm healthy. And if that's also the reason why I want to be able to communicate this to people, that it's, if they could just give this much of time to their needs and follow a routine for themselves, they'll be so much happier and healthy. Work you always have to do. I mean, there is no getting away from that, whether it's at home or it's at the workplace, वो तो करना ही है. But वो करने में थोड़ा सा समय अपने लिए निकालना बहुत जरूरी है.
Absolutely.
And prioritize, focus, calm, talk. It's very important to talk out your anger, frustration. You should always have someone to talk to.
Absolutely. And Poonam, what's your personal take on the future of events? What do you
We'll
feel
come
would be the upcoming trends?
We're definitely coming back. We're events is all about the human connection, and we will. I mean, fine. Currently, we're doing virtuals. Currently, we're doing hybrids. But eventually, nothing will replace the live events as they used to be. And I'm sure sometime during this year, we will see them coming back full-fledged.
Wonderful. And if you have to give a piece of advice to working professionals in our industry, how to cope up with stress and anxiety, what those 3-4 main points would be?
Stay calm, meditate, center yourself. I think it's very important to find, to center yourself. And like I said, sleep well, eat well, exercise, do things that make you happy. Read, watch films, listen to music, go out with friends. It's simple. Life is so simple. We just complicate it.
Yes.
We kind of just make everything so big in our minds that, and that, the mind treats us like a marionette. They treat us like a puppet. So they'll keep playing with us and make things look good or bad, depending upon the mind's mind. So I think we should just let go of things, hold on to anger, not hold on to frustrations. We're always going to face ups and downs in life, but
Okay.
no 2 days are going to be the same.
Absolutely. And any upcoming plans in regards to your WeCare initiative? Anything you're planning ahead for?
We're hoping to do something really exciting in March, and we want to launch a mentorship program for women. And so they feel, that they have idols who they can emulate, they can learn from, they can get inspired from. So we're looking to create that and do some more good work in expanding our line, offering more services to people, doing more workshops where people benefit and find ways to tackle mental pressures. And I hope in the whole scenario, I hope the government looks a little kindly at our industry, because 10 million people work in this industry. And I hope that they consider the bad time that we've gone through and make some concessions so that we come back to normalcy fast.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure talking to you, Poonam, today. And definitely we wish you all the very best in your noble initiative to continue promoting well-being in our industry. Thank you for joining us.